The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of our Seattle loft like it was trying to break in, mirroring the storm already raging inside me. I had just come home from a 12-hour shift at the coffee roastery, my hands still smelling of Ethiopian beans when I spotted it. A sleek black phone tucked under the edge of the couch cushion, its screen lighting up with a notification that wasn't mine to see. My heart slammed against my ribs as I picked it up, the weight of it foreign and heavy, and swiped open the lock screen with a code that matched Hunter's birthday, our little inside joke, or so I thought. The first message hit like a freight train. Miss your voice already, babe. Last night was everything. Can't wait for round 2 in Portland. It was from someone named R. With a heart emoji that twisted the knife deeper. I scrolled, each word a fresh wound, whispers of late-night calls, stolen weekends, and that same "I love you" had breathed into my ear just 2 nights ago under the sheets, his breath warm against my neck. Noah Harlan had always believed in second chances, in the kind of love that could weather Seattle's endless gray skies. But as I sat there on the worn leather couch we'd picked out together at that flea market in Fremont, the city's fog pressing in like a shroud, I wondered if this was the storm that would finally drown us both. I met Hunter Voss 3 years ago, on a crisp October morning that felt more like autumn in Maine than the Pacific Northwest. I was slinging lattes at Brew Haven, a hole-in-the-wall spot tucked into the shadow of the Space Needle, where the air always carried the tang of roasted beans and wet pavement. He walked in wearing a faded flannel shirt over a thermal, his dark hair tousled like head just rolled out of a truck bed, and those hazel eyes that seemed to hold entire forests in them. He ordered a black coffee, no frills, and when our fingers brushed passing the cup, something sparked. A quiet electricity that made the rain outside seem almost romantic. We talked for an hour that day, him perched on a stool while the line backed up behind him. He was a freelance photographer, chasing light across the Salish Sea, documenting everything from orca pods breaching in the Sound to the graffiti-splashed alleys of Capitol Hill. Born in Austin but transplanted to Seattle after his dad's logging business tanked, he had that easy Texas drawl softened by years on the left coast, the kind that made you lean in just to catch every syllable. I told him about growing up in Ridge Valley, a sleepy suburb east of the Cascades where the summer smelled of pine and regret, and how I'd fled to the city to chase a degree in graphic design that never quite materialized. Instead, I poured my dreams into sketches on napkins, and the occasional freelance gig that paid just enough to keep the lights on in my cramped Belltown apartment. By closing time, Head asked me out. Our first date was at Pike Place Market, under a sky-threatening downpour. We wandered the stalls, sampling smoked salmon and fresh sourdough, laughing as he tried to haggle with a flower vendor over a bouquet of wild dahlias. "For you," Head said, tucking one behind my ear, his thumb lingering on my jawline. That night we ended up at my place, the city lights blurring through the rain-streaked windows as we fumbled with buttons and zippers, our bodies discovering each other like uncharted maps. It was messy, urgent, real, the kind of sex that leaves you breathless and bare, whispering promises you hope you can keep. From there it snowballed. Hunter moved into my apartment 6 months later, turning the spare room into a darkroom where Head developed prints under the glow of red safe lights. We'd cook pasta in the tiny kitchen, elbows bumping as we stirred sauce, or hiked the trails in Discovery Park, his hand firm in mine as we crested hills to views of the Olympics shrouded in mist. He was the one who taught me to see the beauty in the gray, how the way the light fractured off Puget Sound could make your chest ache with possibility. And in bed, Head traced the freckles across my shoulders like constellations, murmuring, "You're my North Star, Noah. Don't ever forget that." But lately the cracks had started to show. Head been distant, his phone buzzing more often, late nights editing client shoots, that left him smelling faintly of someone else's cologne. I'd chalk it up to burnout, to the freelance grind that had him chasing gigs in Portland or Vancouver. Last week we'd fought, nothing major, just the slow simmer of unspoken fears, over his reluctance to meet my family back in Ridge Valley for Thanksgiving. "It's complicated, babe," Head said, avoiding my eyes as he scrolled through emails. "Dad still got that old-school Texas bullshit in his head. Let's just keep it us for now. I'd let it go because that's what you do when you love someone. You bend until you almost break." Now, staring at this secret phone, the screen a gallery of ghosts, I felt the bend snap. There were photos, blurry, intimate shots of Hunter shirtless in a motel room, his arms slung around a guy with sharp cheekbones and ink-black hair, laughing like they shared a secret the world couldn't touch. Messages stretched back months. Wish you were here instead of him. Our little escape. And the one that gutted me. I love you too, Rowan. Always have. Rowan Tate. The name landed like a punch. I'd heard it once in passing, when Hunter mentioned a college buddy from UT Austin had followed him west. But this wasn't buddy territory. This was territory marked with hotel receipts from Olympia, train tickets to Portland, and voice notes where Hunter's voice, that voice that had once been my sanctuary, dripped with the same tenderness had reserved for me. I set the phone down, my hands shaking, and paced the loft, the hardwood floors creaking under my socks. The rain had picked up, drumming a relentless rhythm that matched the thud in my chest. Part of me wanted to smash the damn thing, to confront him the second he stepped out of the shower. But another part, the part that still remembered the way Head held me after my mom called with news of my grandpa's passing, rocking me silently until the sobs subsided, held back. What if there was an explanation? What if this was a mistake, a glitch in the matrix of our perfect little life? The shower shut off and I shoved the phone back under the cushion, my heart jackhammering. Hunter emerged in a towel, water beading on his chest, that crooked smile lighting up his face like nothing had changed. Hey you. Rough day. He crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling me into a hug that smelled of cedar soap and lies. I buried my face in his shoulder, inhaling the familiarity, fighting the urge to push him away. Yeah, I murmured, my voice muffled against his skin. Just the usual grind. We stood like that for a moment, his arms a cage I wasn't ready to escape. Dinner was takeout pho from the spot on Queen and, eaten cross-legged on the floor with a true crime doc playing in the background. He laughed at the twist, stealing bites from my bowl, his foot hooked around my ankle under the coffee table. It was so normal, so us, that I almost convinced myself the phone was a hallucination. But sleep evaded me that night. As Hunter snored softly beside me, his arm draped possessively over my waist, I lay awake, the city's hum filtering through the walls. Memories flooded in unbidden. Our road trip to the Oregon coast last summer, windows down, his hand on my thigh as we sang off-key to Springsteen. The way Head proposed we get a dog, a scruffy mutt named after some obscure photographer, though we'd never followed through. And the quiet mornings when Head wake me with coffee and a kiss, whispering, I love you, Noah. More than yesterday. Lies all of it? Or just compartments secrets Head walled off to protect? What? Us? Himself? By dawn the loft was bathed in that pale Seattle light, the kind that makes everything look washed out and temporary. Hunter stirred, rolling over to nuzzle my neck. Morning, handsome. His lips brushed my ear, and for a split second I melted into it. But as he padded to the kitchen to brew coffee, I slipped out of bed and retrieved the phone. One more look, I told myself, just to confirm it wasn't real. The screen glowed accusingly. A new message from our Rowan, timestamp 2:17 a.m. Dreamt of you last night. When do we make it permanent? My vision blurred, hot tears spilling over as I deleted the notification, as if erasing it could erase the fracture. Hunter called from the kitchen. Babe? You coming? I wiped my face, shoved the phone deep into my jacket pocket, and forced a smile. Right behind you. The day unfolded in a haze. I called in sick to Brew Haven, claiming a migraine, and wandered the streets of Capitol Hill, the neighborhood's vibrant pulse a stark contrast to the numbness creeping through me. Graffiti murals splashed color across brick walls, couples strolled hand in hand past indie bookstores, and the air buzzed with the chatter of baristas and buskers. Seattle had always felt like home, a sanctuary for misfits like me, where being gay wasn't just accepted but celebrated, pride flags fluttering from every balcony. Yet here I was, adrift in my own city, questioning if the life I'd built was built on sand. I ended up at California Anderson Park, sinking onto a bench overlooking the wading pool, where kids splashed in the shallow water despite the chill. My phone buzzed. Hunter, texting a heart emoji and, miss you already. Shoot in Ballard today. Dinner out. I stared at it, thumb hovering before typing back a thumbs up. Then, steeling myself, I pulled out the secret phone. No new messages, but the history was damning. Coordinates pinned to a bar in Portland. A calendar invite for coffee with our next week. And buried in the Photos app, a selfie of the three of us, Hunter, Rowan, and a younger version of Hunter from college, arms slung around each other at a bonfire, grins wide and carefree. Who was this Rowan, really? I googled him on my phone, the search pulling up a profile on a photography forum. Rowan Tate, 28, based in Portland, specializing in portraiture with a focus on queer narratives and hidden identities. His feed was a mosaic of ethereal shots. Men in leather jackets against rainy streets, couples tangled in sheets, faces lit with unspoken longing. And there in the comments, Hunter's username at VosLightChaser. Stunning as always, man. Captures the soul. My stomach churned. This wasn't some fling. It was a parallel life, woven with threads of shared art and history that predated me. I scrolled deeper, finding old emails forwarded to the phone's inbox. Hunter to Rowan dated 5 years back. Wish I could tell the world about us. But Austin. You know how it is. The pieces clicked. Hunter, closeted in his conservative upbringing, escaping to Seattle but carrying ghosts. Had I been the rebound? The safe harbor while he navigated deeper waters? By late afternoon, the sky had cleared to a rare blue, mocking my mood. I texted my best friend Lena, who'd moved to Fremont after college and now ran a tattoo parlor specializing in queer icons. Need to talk. Coffee. She met me at her shop, the buzz of the needle a steady drone as she inked a client's forearm with a constellation of stars. Spill, she said, wiping her hands on her apron, her buzzed head and sleeve of tattoos giving her that no-nonsense edge I craved. Over steaming mugs in the back room I unloaded everything, the phone, the messages, the ache that felt like a hollowed-out chest. She listened, eyes narrowing, then pulled me into a hug that smelled of ink and sage. Fuck him, Noah. You deserve someone who sees all of you, not just the parts that fit his narrative. Her words lingered as I walked home, the sun dipping low over the Sound, painting the water in strokes of orange and pink. Hunter was waiting, takeout bags from our favorite Thai place on the counter, candles flickering on the coffee table. A peacemaking gesture after our last spat. Surprise, he grinned, pulling me close. Figured we needed this. We ate on the couch, knees touching, the spice of green curry burning my tongue. He talked about his shoot, portraits of fisherfolk in Ballard, their weathered faces telling stories of the sea. I nodded, laughed in the right places, but my eyes kept drifting to my jacket, the secret phone a ticking bomb in its pocket. After dinner, he drew me to the bedroom, his hands gentle as he undressed me, lips mapping my collarbone. I love you, he whispered, the words a dagger now, as our bodies moved in familiar rhythm. I came undone beneath him, tears mixing with sweat, holding on as if letting go would unravel everything. Afterward, he fell asleep with his head on my chest, but I stared at the ceiling, the loft's exposed beams like bars of a cage. In the quiet I made a decision. I'd follow the trail. Tomorrow Idaho drive to Portland. Confront the ghost before it consumed us. The next morning dawned with a drizzle that slicked the streets, turning Seattle into a watercolor blur. Hunter kissed me goodbye at the door, his truck rumbling off toward another gig. I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed my keys and the secret phone, heading south on I-5. The drive was 3 hours of podcasts and regret, evergreen forests whipping by as I replayed every "I love you," every shared sunrise. What if Rowan was the love of his life and I was just the placeholder? The thought clawed at me, but beneath it simmered anger, a fierce protective flame for the man I'd been before this betrayal. Portland greeted me with its hipster haze, food carts steaming on every corner, the Willamette River sluggish under overcast skies. I had Rowan's address from a tagged photo, a converted warehouse loft in the Pearl District, all exposed brick and gallery windows. Parking was a nightmare, but I found a spot down the block, my pulse thundering as I approached the buzzer. No name, just RT. I hesitated, finger hovering, then pressed it. The voice that crackled through was smooth, accented faintly with something East Coast, maybe Boston. Yeah, not Hunter's drawl, but close enough to twist the knife. Rowan? Snowa. Hunter's friend. The word tasted like ash. A pause, then the door clicked open. I climbed the stairs, each step heavier, until I faced him. Tall, lean, with that ink-black hair cropped short and eyes the color of storm clouds. He wore a paint-splattered tee and jeans, a camera slung around his neck like an extension of himself. Up close, he was striking, high cheekbones, a smattering of freckles across his nose that made him look younger than 28. "Noah," he said, not a question, his gaze appraising. "Heard a lot. Come in." The loft was a photographer's dream. Prints pinned to walls, a darkroom door ajar, the scent of developer fluid mingling with fresh coffee. He gestured to a worn armchair by the window, pouring us mugs without asking. "So what's this about? Hunter okay?" I pulled the secret phone from my pocket, sliding it across the coffee table. His eyes widened fractionally, but he didn't flinch. "Found this. Saw the messages. The photos. Everything." Rowan sank onto the couch opposite, running a hand through his hair. "Shit. I told him to ditch that thing months ago." He met my gaze, steady, no evasion. "Look, Noah, I'm not gonna bullshit you. Hunter and I, we go way back. College. He was my first everything, kiss, heartbreak, the whole messy queer awakening in a state that rather pretend we don't exist." His words hung there, raw and unfiltered, pulling at threads I'd only glimpsed. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. "But that was then. He's with you now. Or was." The past tense stung. I swallowed hard, the coffee bitter on my tongue. "He's still with me. But this." I gestured vaguely. "It doesn't feel like it." Rowan nodded, slow, like he'd been expecting this reckoning. He stood, crossing to a shelf lined with albums, flipping through one until he found what he wanted. A faded print of Hunter and him at 22, shirtless on a Texas lake, arms around each other, grins defiant against the sunset. We tried to make it work after graduation. But his family. His dad caught wind, gave him that ultimatum. Church or the streets. Hunter chose silence. We fizzled, but the what-ifs lingered. He handed me the photo, his fingers brushing mine, warm, callous from shutter clicks. Then Seattle happened. He reached out last year, said he'd met someone amazing. You. I was happy for him, truly. But old flames. They flicker. I traced the lines of Hunter's younger face, the joy in his eyes unshadowed. So the trips? The escapes? Guilt trips mostly. Rowan sighed, sinking back down. Head come down, wet talk, really talk about the parts of himself he keeps locked away. The fear of coming out to his folks, the pressure of this double life. It wasn't about choosing me over you. It was him running from himself. The room tilted, empathy warring with fury. Here was Rowan, not a villain but a mirror. Another piece of Hunter's fractured heart. We talked for hours, the rain picking up outside, turning the city into a softened blur. He showed me his work, portraits that captured the quiet ache of hidden loves, and I shared sketches from my notebook, designs for book covers that never sold. There was a kinship there, unexpected, born of shared loss. By evening, as the light faded, Rowan walked me to the door. "Tell him to come clean, Noah. All of it. Or you'll lose more than a phone." His hand on my shoulder was steady, a lifeline in the storm. The drive back was a blur of headlights and half-formed resolutions. Seattle loomed ahead, its skyline a jagged promise. Hunter was home when I walked in, sprawled on the couch with a beer, the TV murmuring some cop show. "Hey stranger. Portland detour." His smile faltered at my expression. I tossed the secret phone onto his lap. "We need to talk." His face drained of color, the bottle slipping from his fingers to thud on the rug. "Noah, Save it." I sat across from him, the space between us vast as the sound. "Rowan says hi." The confession spilled out then, halting at first, then in a torrent. The college love, the family pressure, the reconnection as a crutch for his doubts. "I never meant to hurt you," he choked, tears streaking his cheeks. "You're the one I want, Noah. The life we have, it's real." Rowan was just echoes. I listened, the words washing over me like rain on glass. Part of me wanted to rage, to pack a bag and bolt to Ridge Valley, leave the city and its ghosts behind. But another part, the one that remembered his hand in mine on those hikes, his laughter echoing in our kitchen, clung tight. "Why didn't you tell me? From the start?" "Fear." he admitted, voice breaking. Of losing you. Of facing what it means to be all in. We sat in silence as night deepened, the loft a cocoon of shadows. Finally, I reached for his hand, our fingers lacing like they always had. Then let's face it together. No more secrets. He pulled me close, sobs muffled against my shirt, and in that raw unraveling I glimpsed the truth. Love wasn't a straight line, but a winding road through fog and fracture. It demanded courage, the kind that stripped you bare and rebuilt you stronger. The weeks that followed were a tightrope walk. Hunter deleted the second phone, blocked Rowan's number. But the trust we'd lost lingered like fog in the valleys. We went to therapy, a queer-affirming counselor in Capitol Hill named Javier, whose office smelled of lavender and looked out over blooming magnolias. Sessions were brutal, Hunter's voice cracking as he unpacked his dad's homophobic rants, the church sermons that branded him sinner, my own confessions of inadequacy, the fear that I'd always be the safe choice, never the wild one. One evening, after a particularly grueling hour where I'd admitted the betrayal had unearthed old wounds from my closeted high school days in Ridge Valley, Hunter drove us to Golden Gardens Park. The beach stretched out under a sky bruised purple, the Olympics mere silhouettes across the water. He spread a blanket, unpacked a thermos of spiked cider, and pulled me down beside him. "Remember our first beach trip?" he murmured, sand gritty between our toes. "You built that lopsided castle, swore it was a metaphor for us." I laughed, the sound rusty but real. "Yeah, held up about as well as we almost did." He turned to me, eyes reflecting the dying light. "I'm sorry, Noah. For the lies, the half-truths. But mostly for not believing I deserved you. All of you without the shadows." The apology hung there, simple and profound, unlocking something in my chest. I kissed him then, slow and deep, tasting salt and cider and forgiveness. Our hands roamed, urgent yet tender, the waves crashing a counterpoint to our breaths. We made love there on the blanket, hidden by dunes, the world narrowing to skin and heartbeat. It wasn't erasure but reclamation. A vow renewed under the stars. Fall deepened, leaves turning the parks to fire. Hunter started a new project. A series on queer elders in Seattle, their stories of survival etched in lined faces and steady gazes. I'd tag along, sketching portraits while he shot. Our synergy a quiet magic. One subject, a retired professor named Ellis from the pre-AIDS crisis days, pulled us aside after. "Love ain't about perfection, boys. It's about showing up when the mirrors crack." His words echoed as Thanksgiving approached. Hunter insisted on Ridge Valley this time. No more delays. My family was a mixed bag. Mom with her warm hugs and apple pie, Dad gruff but kind-hearted, my sister Mia with her endless questions about city life. They welcomed Hunter like a long-lost son, passing the mashed potatoes while he spun tales of orca shoots. That night, as we washed dishes side by side, Mom squeezed his arm. "He's a keeper, Noah. Don't let go." But the real test came in Austin over Christmas. Hunter's folks lived in a sprawling ranch house on the edge of town, barbecue smoke and country radio the soundtrack to family gatherings. His dad, Harlan Voss, a bear of a man with a mustache like a broom, eyed Hunter warily over the turkey, the air thick with unspoken tensions. His mom, Lila, fluttered about with pecan pies, her smiles tight. It happened on Christmas Eve after too much bourbon by the fire pit. Harlan clapped Hunter on the back, voice slurring. "'Bout time you settled down, son. Found a nice girl yet?" The backyard fell silent, crickets chirping in the chill. Hunter's jaw tightened, his hand finding mine under the Adirondack chair. "Dad, Noah's not a girl. He's my partner. The one I love." The words landed like thunder, Harlan freezing, pie fork midway to his mouth. Lila gasped softly, but Mia, visiting from her Portland grad program, shot me a supportive wink. The silence stretched, taut as a bowstring, until Harlan cleared his throat, eyes downcast. "Well, times change, I reckon. Just want you happy, boy." It wasn't a full embrace, no tearful coming out montage, but it was a crack in the wall, a beginning. We left Texas lighter, Hunter's shoulders unbowed for the first time. Spring brought renewal. We adopted that mutt Wed joked about, a wiry terrier mix named Ansel after Adams, who chewed Hunter's boots but slept curled between us. My graphic design side hustle bloomed into a steady gig with a local publisher, covers that captured the soul of Pacific Northwest tales. And Hunter? He reached out to Rowan, not for romance but closure. A single coffee in Portland, boundaries drawn like lines on a map. He's rooting for us, Hunter told me later, over beers at the Alibi Room. Said you two bonded. That's something. It was. In the quiet moments as Ansel snored and the city hummed beyond our windows, I traced the scars on Hunter's heart, the ones from Texas, from Rowan, from me, and know they traced mine too. Love, I learned, wasn't possession but partnership. Two souls navigating storms, emerging not unbroken, but beautifully mended. One July evening, as fireworks burst over Lake Union for the 4th, we sat on our balcony, his head on my shoulder, the sky a canvas of red and gold. Thank you, he whispered, fingers laced with mine, for seeing me. All of me. I turned, kissing his temple. Always. We're in this fog together. And in that shared breath, under Seattle's eternal drizzle turning to stars, I found not just him but myself. Whole, free, unapologetic. The kind of love that doesn't whisper lies, but roars truths into the night.